So let's say you're designing a room with Fusion 360 and you have some different sized benches. Wouldn't it be great if you could design one part and then use parameters to effectively build a bunch of different sizes of the same thing and reuse that? Or for 3D printing, you need to create a bunch of different sizes so that you can test them and get some feedback in real life. So here's the tricky part. Fusion 360 has this capability and it's pretty cool. You can use what's called configurations. I'm going to configure specific dimensions. Maybe in this case, we're configuring the different lengths of this 3D print and then dropping them into one file and having all these different variations, iterations ready to go that we can 3D print. The bummer is that this is only available in the paid version of Fusion 360. So I'm going to cover both options today. How to do this with configurations, as well as some strategies how to do it without. So the configuration method will start by creating a rectangle and building one of our designs and being sure to add those important dimensions that we want to control. So let's just say we're going to maybe control the width and length of this design. We're going to make a bench. It's very simple, but will be helpful for our example. I'm going to add a chamfer. So here's our design, and I want to make several different sizes. So what I'll do is go up to configure, and we can give the names to the configuration. But first, we do need to tell it what parameters, dimensions we want to configure specifically. So in this case, I want to do the length, and let's even do the width. We can also configure whether or not things are suppressed, showing on or off, so to speak. So for example, the chamfer could be suppressed and not solving. So you'd have a flat rectangular box, and then you'd have some that have this beveled edge. So I'm going to add a few configurations. We can rename them. So I could do my small. And then let's put in values that make sense. So if we're going to size this up, you can see the configuration is stored right above the bodies and sketches. I'll save the file. And now when I go to a brand new, I'll think of this as my assembly file that I'm going to bring these into. Now I'm going to insert right from the data panel. Find the file, right-click, insert into current design. It will prompt you for which configuration you'd like to use. So I can bring in a medium size, place this where it should go, click OK, and then I could bring in my other examples. Can do the insert into the design, or you actually can copy and paste as well, and then reconfigure. So let's show that as well. So now we have two sizes. You can see we have a medium and a small. Next, if you change your mind which file is being used, or excuse me, which configuration that it's using, I want this to be the small instead. I can right click on this design file and come up to switch configuration. That will bring up that menu again. And so now I can change this to the small configuration. You can copy and paste. So if I right click, copy and paste, it will place this in the design. And the same rules apply. If I want to change which configuration, come up to switch configuration and choose large, for example. So now I have all three and I could 3D print these, for example. Now, if you're on the free version of Fusion 360, here's a workaround for you. Let's create the same design, but before we get started, I'm in a brand new file, so I'm going to do new component to get started. And this first component is the one I'll make sure is completely set up the way we want. I'm going to use parameters. One of my favorite things to do with parameters is to actually do it in the dimensions as I'm working. So in this case, we'll say that this is 400 and this is 1000, but I'm going to come back to those dimensions. I could have done it right when I was placing it, but I'm going to do width equals 400. Just be sure there's no spaces there, hit enter, and then when you hover over it, it should show you the new name. It didn't accept mine. I'm going to try again. And if Fusion 360 is being stubborn about the names, sometimes changing the value a little bit can be helpful. So I'm going to extrude this whole thing and even configure that height of the box or depth. equals 50, and then we'll add our chamfer. So we have this component, and what we're going to do is use the parameters to drive this. Let's chamfer it real quick. So what I want to do first, the first method is once this design is pretty much in a final state where I'm pretty happy with it, now I want to create all these different versions, perhaps for 3D printing. So what I'm going to do is come to the modify and change parameters. This is where I can control these values quickly and recreate them. But I would like to create another version of this that is not linked and can behave separately. So I'm going to right click and choose to copy, and then right click and choose paste as new. Okay, so I'm going to do one more. I'm going to right click and do a copy, come up to the top level, right click and do paste new. Now I have a third, we can give it a name, and this will be our medium. Now that I have 3 different variations, we can do as many as we like. I'm going to now create all the different sizes using parameters. I'll come to modify, change parameters, and you can see all of them laid out. They're tied to their file name and then the parameter length, width, and depth. Now the sizes are updated with the parameters. I have this all in one file, so I could save this out from my slicer to 3D print. And I have these three variations that live here and can be modified with the parameters. And let's look at one quick alternative. If you'd like to have them as separate files that you can manage, instead of doing it all in one, let's come to the modify parameters, get this how we'd like it to be. So if this is now 1200, I've updated the length. I'm now going to do a save as. So if I save a copy of this file and give it the appropriate name, this is my medium 3D print design, click save, you now have an additional file with that size. And then come in and create your next. So now we'll do our large configure, large size, right click and save as a copy. And now we'll have another file with this version. And so in wrapping up, I tried a bunch of different styles and approaches to this. My favorite, of course, is configurations, but that is a paid option. So the save as was my next favorite when it comes to creating iterations of the same design. Hope that helps. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'll see you in the next video.